In the last episode of the Turkey Extreme Philately series, I went to the Grand Post Office of Istanbul, bought a lot of stamps, and then did some extreme philately at the Column of Constantine. I learned that this stamp was a part of a set showing the views of Constantinople, issued in 1914 by the then Ottoman Empire. In this episode, we'll have a look at some of the most famous mosques in the city of Istanbul, and I'll show you that sometimes being an extreme philatelist doesn't always work out perfectly. Let's start with this stamp, which shows the Blue Mosque. It's not too far away from the Column of Constantine, so we can walk there. In the view from the stamp, we're looking at the mosque from the side with the minarets that have two balconies, or serefes, which is the side next to Sultanahmet Square. So here's where we run into our first problem. As you can see, the view of the stamp is now completely obscured by trees. But this is still a place worth visiting, as we find ourselves in a beautiful square with an interesting obelisk at one end. And although we don't have it, this obelisk is actually featured on yet another stamp of the 1914 Views of Constantinople series. This is the Obelisk of Theodosius. It's actually originally from Egypt, but was brought to Constantinople in the year 390 under Byzantine Emperor Theodosius. And this whole courtyard used to be a hippodrome, which is a horse chariot racing stadium. Let's go on and see if we can get a better view of the Blue Mosque. The Blue Mosque was built between 1609 and 1616 by Sultanahmet I, who was only 19 at the time of its construction. Its construction was controversial for a few reasons, one being that usually mosques were built on commission from bounties after winning wars and expanding the territory, but Sultan Ahmed didn't win any wars and just financed the whole mosque from the treasury funds, which a lot of people didn't like. Secondly, he ordered it to be constructed with 6 minarets, which are the tall, pointed towers surrounding the mosque. Minarets are traditionally where the muezzin would stand and sing out the call to prayer over the whole city for everyone to hear. At the time it was built, the only other mosque with that many minarets was the Great Mosque in Mecca, so the Sultan was criticized as trying to compete with it. To oppose this claim, he ended up paying for construction of a 7th minaret to be built at Mecca's Great Mosque. It looks like the Blue Mosque is under pretty extensive renovations right now, but we'll go inside and try to see the courtyard and the interior. The reason it's called the Blue Mosque is because the inside is lined with over 20,000 ceramic iznik tiles, which are blue, turquoise, and red painted tiles. The word turquoise actually means Turkish in French. The mineral was first brought to Europe from Turkish mines, and the French called it Turkish stone, or turquoise, which then became turquoise in English. Unfortunately, we also don't really get to appreciate the iconic tiles of the Blue Mosque, as it was very crowded inside, and everything is mostly blocked off by scaffolding, nor were we able to enter the courtyard area, so I sadly did not get to do extreme philately with the 2 souvenir sheets that I bought. So, as you can see, it's pretty crowded, and unfortunately a lot of it looks like it's under construction, so it doesn't really look like how it does in all the pictures. We're slowly trying to leave. Hi guys, so I went to the Blue Mosque to do some extreme philately, but unfortunately it's under a lot of renovation, as you can tell, so we won't be able to see. I got these souvenir sheets just for it, but that's what you can imagine it looks like. But I'm sad that we can't go in there. Maybe next time. Let's have a closer look at these souvenir sheets, because they really are quite nice. This is a joint issue between Turkey and Kyrgyzstan Republic, issued in 2020. The stamp says Republic of Turkey, and at the bottom, Republic of Turkey and Republic of Kyrgyzstan, joint stamp. And what about these words? Oh, so it turns out this isn't even a picture of the Blue Mosque courtyard. I don't know why I just assumed it was. I guess I'd seen pictures of the Blue Mosque courtyard and thought they were the same, but this is actually a completely different mosque in Kyrgyzstan. Oops. Well, if I'd been able to see the courtyard, maybe I would have realized it was a different place. We'll soon see that I'm not the only philatelist out there who's mixing up my mosques. Anyway, as we continue on our tour and exit the Blue Mosque courtyard, we can see another iconic mosque directly across the park, the Hagia Sofia. The 2 mosques face each other, separated by a lovely park with gardens and a water fountain. Hagia Sophia is such an interesting mosque because it was originally built as a Christian church during the Byzantine Empire. It was only later converted to a mosque when the Ottomans took over in 1453. That's also part of why Sultan Ahmed wanted to make the Blue Mosque so extravagant. He was trying to show that an Ottoman-constructed mosque could rival the Great Hagia Sophia, a structure actually built by the Byzantines. I had brought along this stamp, thinking it showed the Hagia Sophia because I saw it on this webpage on the Kolnek catalog. This stamp is part of a set issued in 1967 by Czechoslovakia for the upcoming Praga 1968 World Stamp Exhibition. The set highlights previous cities that had hosted international stamp exhibitions and their famous landmarks, such as Prague 1962, Paris 1964, Vienna 1965, Washington, D.C. 1966, Amsterdam in 1967, and Istanbul in 1963, except unlike all of the other stamps, the mosque shown in this picture is not the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. It's actually the Suleyminaye Mosque in Edirne, Turkey, which is a city quite far away from Istanbul. Since all the other stamps in the set show landmarks actually in the cities that they mention, I'm pretty sure this is a design error. So see, I'm not the only one getting my mosque confused. So I wasn't able to do any proper extreme philately with the Hagia Sophia either, but I can still show you guys a quick look inside. It's a really interesting ancient building where you can see both Islamic inscriptions and ancient Christian mosaic art all in one place. Plus, the interior is massive and the domes are spectacular. As we exit the Hagia Sophia, I have another view of the Blue Mosque again. That's almost right for this stamp, although too bad I couldn't get any higher up on the ground. This stamp was issued by Turkey in 1965 as part of a series on tourism stamps. I did try repeating this photo from higher up on a rooftop cafe that we went to, but the angle is still not quite right. Finally, I have one more mosque stamp to try and see if you guys are not too tired yet. It's this stamp, issued by Turkey in 1959, and it shows the Suleyminaye Mosque. This mosque was built between 1550 and 1557, commissioned by the Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent. It was designed by a famous architect, Mimar Sinan, who had previously designed a mosque in remembrance of the Sultan's late son, but the Sultan liked it so much he asked the architect to design a mosque for himself to represent the eminence of the Ottoman Empire. At the time it was built, it was one of the largest mosques ever built in the whole empire. This was really my favorite mosque to visit in Istanbul. It was not under renovation and a lot less crowded than the other two mosques, which really allowed us to appreciate the beauty of the architecture, the spacious prayer area, and the beautiful Iznik tiles. Plus, because this mosque is located so high up in the city, it has an amazing view of the Bosphorus Strait and city skyline. Because the mosque is so huge and high up, I had some more trouble getting the right view for extreme philately. The best I could get was actually from another rooftop patio that we went to a little bit farther away from the mosque, but unfortunately this view is backwards. That's the best I could do while we explored the city on foot, and hopefully it counts for something that I was able to visit these places in person anyway. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode of my attempts at extreme philately of the famous Mosque of Istanbul. It's not always possible to get the perfect view, but it was still amazing to visit in person and learn a little bit more about the history of these places. Stay tuned for some more episodes to come.